just say 5, 6 years, and where they have gone, and I don't know if it necessarily will behoove Krug to go somewhere else. Look at Tyler Seguin. I mean, yes, he went to Dallas. Yes, the Stars have been decent, but is Tyler Seguin even in Dallas the same player that we saw in Boston? He's no longer has that potential future superstar moniker attached to him. He's just kind of become a role player. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watched any bit of the Stanley Cup final. I tuned in here and there, but Tyler Seguin was non-existent, and really Sagan's rookie year here, and we all knew Claude when he wasn't a huge fan of the young players, but he gave Sagan a chance. Sagan made an impact. Second full year in the league, Sagan probably by far the Bruins' best player on that first line with Bergeron and Marchand by far. Third year, he took a little bit of a step back, but then, to me, I still feel the Bruins gave up on him way too early. He turned himself to a really good player his first three years in Dallas. The last couple of years, as I said, he's turned into more of a role player than the superstar player that he turned into. And I really have that fear of Troy Krug. Like, the Bruins, they've kept him around longer than Tyler Seguin. Krug's been here, 4, 5, 6 years already? So they haven't given up on Krug at all. Frankly, I don't think the Bruins should allow Troy Krug to walk. It's a walk year for him. He's unrestricted for the very first time. So if the Bruins don't make every effort in there to keep him, because there's a team like Vegas who needs a defenseman, Minnesota who needs a defenseman. You could even lose him to Montreal if that becomes a possibility.
Yeah, I really think, like I said, the 6-year deal I thought was actually a very generous deal for them to give him. But I think ultimately they get it done if maybe they need to go a little bit higher or they need to put in like a player option or something to sweeten the pot a little bit. But I think they get it done. I think Krug stays in Boston.
Yeah, because me and a few friends talk about this. You and I have talked about this, that, Krug doesn't find any other level that he feels is reasonable. Troy Krug would go right back to the Bruins on that 6-year deal. I forget how much they offered him, 36 and a half.
I want to say it was 36 and a half. Yeah, I think you're right on the nose.
Yeah, around that ballpark. And so say Troy Krug gets an offer from, say, Arizona, and they offer him 4 at 20. He's going to look at that and say, okay, a team is up on the rise, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for compared to the Bruins. Job security, I'll roughly be a number one defenseman with Charlie McAvoy consistently for the next 6 years in Boston. So I think with Krug, if he doesn't get the offer that he thinks that he's worth, and I think Troy Krug will be worth every cent, he'll come out to Boston. But I think Krug will take this as far as he needs to, because the new season's not going to start till the beginning of January. So he has time to decide what he wants to do.
Right. And I think also the one thing that you got to remember, too, is with a player like Krug, you're going to have that familiarity of pairing on the ice like you talked about, knowing that you can look back there. And you think of where he's getting now into being that veteran in the locker room and having that stature and the ability, his talents on the ice, it really leads me to say, if Zdeno Chara doesn't come back, or if Chara comes back but only plays one more season, who really is your defensive captain going forward? If you lock up Torrey Krug for 6 years, you're set. Because yes, you've got McAvoy back there, but McAvoy's only going into like his third full season. You have you can have all these other guys that are back there, like Nordstrom, if they keep him, or, you've got a lot of younger guys back there on the defense right now. And especially because we don't know who's in the cage next year. I mean, is it Tuukka Rask, but maybe probably not going to be Rask. It looks like he might be out the door, and I know you want to touch on that a little bit later in the show, but when you think about it, it's like, okay, so if Rask goes out, is it Halak? Is Halak really truly the number one? If it's not Halak, then okay, who is it? Is it Legacy? Is it, who comes up from Providence? Is it Legacy? Is it Vladar? Is it somebody else that you're going to sign in? There are so many people that are on the marketplace right now. Matt Murray is potentially, on the marketplace.
Matt Murray's been traded to the Ottawa Senators.
I don't think that deal's done yet.
It's been agreed upon.
Well, I'm saying Murray went to the Ottawa Senators. I don't think necessarily that's where he's going to end up staying. I think the Ottawa Senators pulled that deal to create something. And we see this happen all the time, not just in the NHL and so many other pro sports where they say, so-and-so has been traded to this team, and then all of a sudden 3 days later, they're traded to somebody else for a whole group. So Murray getting traded to the Ottawa Senators didn't make a whole lot of sense to me unless the Ottawa Senators are looking for a bargaining chip, which is Matt Murray. So that's why I'm saying I think Matt Murray may still very well be on the market. I don't necessarily think Ottawa's set there, but look at what's happening in Vegas, as well. Marc-Andre Fleury is persona non grata apparently in Vegas now. Robin Leonard gets this huge contract. Corey Crawford just got cut by the Chicago Blackhawks this afternoon. So Corey Crawford's on the market. And one thing to be said is, and I know this sounds really weird, but look at this one. What is something that Murray, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Crawford all have in common?
3-time Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah, exactly. They're all Stanley Cup champions. So one thing that we said is if you're trying to figure out how to get yourself back, not just back to the promised land, but back to winning the promised land, and you're looking for somebody who can give you 60, 70 games in a season and can be able to compete in both the East and the West, there's also something else to be said for especially Marc-Andre Fleury and Corey Crawford. They have played at times in their career in the East, but they have been playing also in the West. The knowledge spectrum that they're going to have is pivotal. So would I love seeing Tuukka Rask back? Yes. Would I be okay seeing Halak in net as the number one? Yeah. Because I never really thought Halak was a true number one, even when he was with the Islanders. And yes, he was thrown into a very difficult situation with Rask being in the bubble and then all of a sudden extricating himself from the bubble. Obviously, we know he had a medical issue with his daughter, and that's what was the situation.
Even so, the situation still rubs a lot of fans the wrong way. And
and that's
I think a lot of fans forget, especially in times like these, that these guys are sons, they're husbands, they're fathers, and their families take precedence. In Rask's case, his daughters took precedence over football, hockey. Oh my gosh,
right.
I'm all over the place today.
Right, but you brought up a really good point, and that's one of the things that I know I've stressed this at times, over the past couple of months, whether it was doing the podcast show, whether it was on an episode of And That's the Game or last week on the preview show for Sports World Weekly, was literally the fact that we need to put the humanity back into sports. We have to start realizing that this is not video game sports. This is not Battle Dome, where they are gladiators that are prisoners of the state or anything like that. These are human beings playing the game that we are fans of. And So we have to remember, as much as we adore these players for what they do on whatever field it is that they play, at the same time, they are, they are, as you said, they are husbands, they are fathers, they are wives, they are daughters, they are, moms, dads, whoever it might be. And I have to say, though, I think the Bruins organization at the beginning of it could have done a little bit better on transparency with the announcement. Literally just saying Tuukka Rask is opting out of the bubble made it sound to fans, and I think was what created a lot of the backlash at that moment, was that he just gave up. He just said, he said, screw it, I'm packing my bags and going home.
Yeah.
And they could have easily said, without disclosing, exactly what was going on.
A family matter occurred that Rask needed attention to.
Exactly. They could have easily said, Tuukka Rask is departing the Toronto bubble due to a family emergency back home, and, back home in Slovakia. And he, therefore he will no longer be with the team potentially for the duration of the playoffs. If you said that, sure, there's some people that might be upset about it, but the reaction would have been extensively different, because it would have been a lot then at that point of, oh my gosh, what's going on? I hope everything's okay. I hope it's not too bad. I hope somebody didn't die. Nobody has COVID. It would have been a lot of a different reaction.
Yeah. And I think it would have been a different reaction too if Tuukka Rask, simply said before the restart, saying, hey, I'm opting out because just had a newborn, not feeling comfortable with it. And Rask has come out and said the Toronto bubble sucked. And I guarantee you, all the NHL players in both were in Edmonton and Toronto will all say, yeah, it sucked, which we all know it sucks. Not just you're quarantined away, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can only do this, you can only do that. It measures the dimensionally. That's what happens, Rask and everything. But I think just what a lot of people have the issue with, and my issue was just the timing of it. Yeah, you can't control any of this stuff, but the timing of it is like, you knew X, Y, and Z could potentially happen, and you weren't comfortable going in the bubble in the first place. Yeah. You could have opted out in the first place, knowing everyone would be like, oh, okay, yep, see you later. We'll talk to you when we talk to you. But even the fact that he went in, he went in, then he left was a crucial time for the Bruins. It was a pivotal game 3 at the time of the series. Rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah.
But no, we'll get more on the Rask rumors coming up, because interesting article I read earlier today. Thought I'd share with you guys. You're listening to TitleTown Throwdown with Special Guest Matt Jolles. We'll be right back after a quick Beatle. And we're back with TitleTown Throwdown.
Is it me, or do our commercials just have some jams on them?
Don't they?
Our commercials, our show intro reels, they got some jams on them.
A lot better than the commercials you see on TV today. That's for sure. Anyway, TitleTown Throwdown, Special Guest Matt Jolles. And so, again, the Tuukka Rask rumors. So, a couple things we need to note here on Tuukka Rask. He has 1 year left in his current contract with the Bruins that he signed back in 2013 when Not Don Sweeney, but Peter Chiarelli was still running the show here in Boston. So he signed that 7-year deal. Can't believe that was 7 years ago already. Wow. Time flies when you're having fun.
It's been 9 years since they won the cup.
Oof.
I know that hurts.
Should have won it last year.
Should have won it last year. Should have won it a couple of times since.
2013, 2013, they should have forced a game 7. They should have forced a game 7 there.
Yeah.
But anyway, though, so Rask has 1 year left on a 7-year contract that he signed back in 2013. His full no trade clause expires tomorrow. So earlier this week, it was reported that Don Sweeney asked for Tuukka Rask's 15-list team of teams that he would not accept a trade to. And then obviously, I wrote a story about it, and obviously my luck, 4 or 5 hours later, Don Sweeney comes out saying that there's no truth to those rumors. But the speculation's still there, naturally.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a clause in his contract, and that clause expires in about 4 hours and 40 minutes. So it's like Don Sweeney can say whatever he wants to say about these are rumors. There's no truth to it or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is, in like I said, in 4 hours and 40 minutes, Tuukka Rask does not have a no trade clause.
And if the Bruins do decide to ship him, he has no say in it. He has to go there. He has no say now. He can choose not to play for that team. Certainly in Rask's first public comment since he left the Toronto bubble from the Boston Herald, he said that he wants to remain with the Bruins. He wants to retire with the Bruins. It's good to hear that he wants to stay with the Bruins, but a lot of questions remain, though. Will the fans accept him back? Will the fans accept him back quick? And probably that game 2 against Carolina, was that the last time we saw Tuukka Rask in a Boston Bruins uniform? Now look, I looked into Rask's contract. He carries a $7 million cap hit for 2020-21. The $7 million is the cap hit. He has a $6.5 million base salary that he'll be getting this season as part of the final year, but that no movement clause is out. So that's where it really gets tricky, because a lot of teams don't look at that saying, "Oh yeah, he carries $7 million cap hit. We're going to have to negotiate with the Bruins, see if they'll eat some of that money up." Because the Bruins had to take a portion of David Backes' cap hit and put it towards them for this year. So the Bruins are on the hook for $1.5 million cap hit for David Backes trying to play out in Anaheim. So it's beneficial to the Bruins to have some more cap space. But if you're looking to move to the rest, you're going to have to eat at least half of that $7 million cap hit just to move him. And, I'm not sure what team it would really be wise enough to really take on that kind of money. 2 options I can think of: maybe Detroit could use someone to get some fans back. Even though Ottawa just got Matt Murray, and Ottawa desperately needs people back in the seats. They desperately need it because they're just horrible to watch. A guy like Tuukka Rask could be helpful.
Tuukka Rask for Matt Murray. Here, we'll send you Tuukka Rask. Give us Matt Murray and a draft pick.
Here's Matt Murray. We'll send you Tuukka Rask and a bowl of clam chowder. But no, there's a few options that the Bruins have with Tuukka Rask. But
yeah,
Matt, I want to ask you, where's the best destination for the Bruins to send Tuukka Rask? But what is your percentage that Tuukka Rask actually gets moved?
I'll go second question first, and then to the first part. Second question being, what percentage do I think Tuukka Rask gets moved? I think it's about 40% right now. That obviously can change as we see things develop over the next couple of days. To where Tuukka Rask gets moved to, that depends on value. Obviously, if you can if you can send him to a team where you're going to get potentially a good number one goaltender and something else back in value, and or you're going to get a scorer and something in value, that obviously matters. You don't want to ever send him anywhere in your division. That's just like the dumbest thing that you can possibly do in any professional sport, is to send somebody somewhere else in your division. So you don't want to send anybody, to somebody in your division. But on the other side of it, I don't know. I mean, does he potentially end up in Montreal in a reunion with Claude Julien? I mean, how much is Carey Price going to be able to go next year? He's coming sort of towards the end of his career, if not being at the end of his career. It'd be interesting to see who are the 15 teams that actually are on Tuukka Rask's list.
Well, it won't matter. It won't matter in about 4 hours.
If it exists, just out of still out of curiosity, because those are the teams he won't go to, anyway. But I mean, I don't really know where he goes. I think ultimately maybe he does end up staying in Boston, or they figure out a way to buy him out of his contract, possibly. I mean, we haven't talked about that option yet, but maybe the Bruins just say, hey, you know what? Here's your severance. Bye. See ya. Knowing that you've got a Marc-Andre Fleury, a Corey Crawford, a Henrik Lundqvist, on the market. Does King Henrik come to Boston next year?
If Henrik Lundqvist comes to Boston, my girlfriend will not be the happiest camper about that one. But no, for me, I think it's about maybe a 25% Tuukka Rask gets moved, and there's obvious reasons to move him. Extra cap space, and give that money to Troy Krug, or go and get yourself a Marc-Andre Fleury, or a Henrik Lundqvist, or Braden Holtby, who's surprisingly out on the market. And
that shocked me.
I mean, Minnesota's an option to trade him. Minnesota just recently traded Devin Dubnyk to the San Jose Sharks, so Minnesota's in the market for a number one goaltender. So Tuukka Rask fits the bill there. You might be able to get a little something from Minnesota, but with any Tuukka Rask deal, though, the Bruins are going to have to include, offering to retain some of that cap hit money, and even possibly a little bit of his $6.5 million base salary.
Yeah,
just given the uncertain financial future of the NHL right now, because the NHL's not going to get back to normal for at least another couple of years, schedule wise. I mean, the NHL season not starting until at the very earliest January 1st, and the NHL intends to play a full 82-game season in teams' home arenas, and they're hoping with fans, but they're hoping to have teams playing in their own arenas. Because
right.
If you're an NHL player, you don't want to do a bubble again. You just don't want to do it.
I don't think any professional sports league wants to really do a bubble again, especially not for the extent of a season.
Even the NHL to go to the NHL and the NBA, for instance, when their season wraps up probably tomorrow night, most likely it will. But the leagues are going to go to these players saying, "Hey, we have this bubble idea again to start the season, and then hopefully a little bit down the road, we're able to get you guys back in your own arenas with fans attending." What do you think? The players are looking at that saying, we'd rather just play in our own arena empty and call it a day, because, this is what's wrong with the bubble XYZ. This is what we didn't like being in the bubble for XYZ.
Yeah, which outside of Miami, St. Louis, and Cincinnati, wasn't an issue in Major League Baseball outside of Tennessee in the NFL, and and then outside of a few colleges, it has not been an issue. If
it has been a total train wreck.
if you are willing to commit yourself to going home training center, home stadium for games, home, you're not going out and having parties, going out to eat and doing this and that. Have your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, go and do your grocery shopping so you're not out in stores. And I mean, look, like MLS has been playing their games after they had the MLS back tournament in Orlando. The second half of the MLS season has been teams playing at their home stadiums, and they have not had a single outbreak that has occurred in any MLS team. The NWSL had Challenge Cup in Utah, but the NWSL Fall Series has been in home stadiums for the teams, and they have not had any issues there as well. And then, of course, overseas, everything in Europe has restarted, and we have not heard yet anything out of La Liga, Serie A, Premier League, Bundesliga, Svenskan, whatever, of any issues out of the, the soccer leagues over in Europe, or any of the F1 races or NASCAR or IndyCar.
In Europe, they're allowing people to attend the sport event. So, now we don't know whether fans are entering there. They're getting tested at a time. They're wearing masks. We don't know about that.
Well, they're not in for most of the soccer leagues. They're not letting fans back in the stadiums yet. They've been playing those in empty stadiums, but I know that
in certain parts they are.
Yeah, I know that. I know that in rugby. I mean, rugby league. Rugby Nations League and some of the other sports, they've let people like, well, French Open in tennis is happening right now. It'll conclude this weekend at Roland Garros in Paris, and they've had 11,000 fans, every day on the grounds for the Open. So they are in certain sports events and places and things in Europe, and I think in some of the lower division leagues, they've been letting team players into team stadiums. The top flight divisions, Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga, etc., have been playing behind closed doors still.
Right. Before we get way off shops, let's just go back to the rest very quickly. So there's a few options. There's a few options out there. So again, Ottawa, Craig Anderson, he's not going back. The Capitals are an option. Braden Holtby's going. Vegas. I mean, if Radzic willing to accept a backup role, because Robin Leonard just signed a 5-year extension on with Vegas, and they're exploring Marc-Andre Fleury trades, which, frankly, in Vegas, I wouldn't ruin a good thing between Leonard and Fleury, because if Leonard goes down, he's still got a reliable goaltender and Marc-Andre Fleury. So I think at the end of the day, I think Tuukka Rask probably ends up staying with the Bruins. You still have a good goaltending tandem in Halak and Rask. And I'll be honest, if Tuukka Rask were to leave, fine. But I'd have a little bit more confidence in Halak than, say, Max Ledesay or Dan Vladar, because both guys have just been in the AHL the entire time the last couple of years, because they've had a great goaltending tandem, both Rask and Halak. So throw one of those two guys into the fire. You're reverting back to what it was in Julian's last couple of years here, where he had Tuukka Rask playing 70 games a year because his backups just couldn't get the job done, or they got hurt consistently. So you don't want to revert back to that. You don't want to look at a 35-year-old Jarl Halak and say, hey, we need you to play 70 games because your two backups aren't NHL ready yet. Halak's going to look at you at 6 heads saying, really?
Right, yeah, and that's where I think, it comes into play of how this all ends up getting done, and why. Yeah, I can't disagree with you saying 20%, but I said 40. I'm not going to disagree with you on that, but I really think Tuukka Rask stays.
I think he ends up staying too, but a lot can change between now and 4 hours from now.
Yeah,
a lot can change. But no, but for Diddles, if the Bruins were to move on from Tuukka Rask, who would you like to see come in and be the number one goaltender for the Bruins? Because they got Craig Anderson out there, Brian Elliott out there, Anton Khudobin's back out on the market. You got Braden Holtby out there, Jacob Markstrom, Henrik Lundqvist, Mike Smith of the Coyotes. He's out there, or Oilers now. He used to be with the Coyotes.
Yep.
We got all these goaltending options. It's a flurry of goaltenders out there. If the Bruins were to move on from Tuukka Rask tomorrow, who would you like to see the Bruins bring in to be the solid number one goaltender?
I want to see somebody who's got a lot of experience, and I want to see somebody who's gotten to the promised land so that they know what it takes. So I would look at Corey Crawford, Marc-Andre Fleury, Braden Holtby. One thing being said is that, they're still, while they've been around for a long period of time, they're still also, remember, Marc-Andre Fleury was very young when he came in to the league, and is still pretty young, in terms of goalkeepers. So I would say either Fleury, Crawford, or Holtby. Absolutely not Brian Elliott. Under no circumstances do I want to see Brian Elliott in Boston. Under no circumstances do I want to see anyone who ever wore a Coyotes or Oilers jersey, simply because of the fact of those franchises are in absolute disarray. Especially Arizona. Like Arizona, I could wake up tomorrow and they could say that Arizona is being contracted and will no longer exist in the NHL, and I will be like, geez, it took you, long enough, like about time. Sure. Remember, we're gonna have a whole goaltending shuffle happen again next year anyway when the Seattle Kraken come into the league.
You have the expansion draft, and trust me, the Kraken, they'll have many, many, many guys to choose to. If the Bruins do decide to hang on to Rask this year,
leave him unprotected.
Leave him unprotected, and let the Kraken draft him, and they have his rights to sign him. So that's what. I mean, if you're the Bruins, though, you might want to get a little something for Tuukka Rask while he has value, rather than let him go in the expansion draft or let him walk in free agency next year and you lose him for absolutely nothing. So if I'm Don Sweeney, I wouldn't pull the trigger right away. Wait for the right deal to come up.
Yep.
And if no deal that you see likes, then you keep Tuukka Rask and just try to either move him in season or move him before his contract is set to expire, trade his signing rights elsewhere, so that way a team that wants him, they can sign him, but you also got a little something back in return. Whether it's really at this point, Rask is probably worth maybe an AHLer and a couple of picks. You're not going to get a Marc-Andre Fleury. You're not going to get a Steven Stamkos. You're not going to get an Alex Ovechkin. You're not going to get a Jonathan Toews or Patrick Kane. You're not. That's the reality of it. You're not.
Right.
All right. So when we come back, we're going to leave the ice sheet and we're going to hit the gridiron. We're going to talk some NFL football. You are listening to TitleTown Throwdown. We will be right back. And yet another catchy jam from one of our ads. Just another nice catchy. As you said, these jingles are very, very, very catchy.
Yeah, I think Mason did a good job on them.
Oh, Mason did a great job. Big hand of Mason. All right, so lot of NFL stuff to get to. A lot of Patriots news to get to. Let's start with the most obvious. Stephon Gilmore tested, as allegedly tested positive for COVID-19. He has announced that he is asymptomatic. He's not feeling any symptoms whatsoever. And recently stressed that this week the Patriots played Kansas City on Monday night. They tested the Chiefs again today. All Chiefs players who played against Gilmore on Monday night all tested negative. So the Chiefs don't have an issue. The Raiders, they're still good. Those are the Patriots' last two opponents. So ironically enough, they got to be tested. But now this leads to a lot. If, we got Gilmore, we got Noonan test positive Saturday. Gilmore tests positive on Tuesday, but no one else tests positive. All right, now things are getting a little fishy. Were Newton's and Gilmore's tests both false positives? If that's the case, Newton will be eligible to play this Sunday. Probably not Gilmore. He's probably going to be out. But, if Newton's clear to play, that benefits the Patriots. And if you're Gilmore, don't bother getting another test because your bye week's next week, and that gives you a whole another week to get another test, prove that was a false positive. But something's a little fishy in New England when it comes to the COVID test because if Newton tests positive, because if both Newton and Gilmore tested positive, if it guys like the McCourty twins would have tested positive, offensive lineman would have tested positive, Element would have tested positive, Gerard Mayo, the quote-unquote defensive coordinator, would have tested positive, Josh McDaniels probably would have gone in, maybe even Bill Belichick. But all those guys come back negative, and it's just those two players. Something's not right.
Yeah, so interesting situation out of Foxborough, and this one, again, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots being, the way, well, Belichick being Belichick. There's a report that Stephon Gilmore and Cam Newton had dinner together on Friday before the Kansas City Chiefs game would have happened on Sunday, before the Patriots were scheduled to leave for the Chiefs game. If that's the case and that dinner did actually happen and the Patriots, Belichick won't confirm or deny it. He just kind of was like, yeah, we followed all the protocols. Literally.
I reached the point in which Bill doesn't care what these guys do when they're away from the
it's
field.
like literally says to me, okay, so was that dinner at Cam's home? If it wasn't at Cam's home, if it was out in a restaurant somewhere, then Gilmore and Newton test positive. That means they picked it up at the restaurant that they were at. Potentially, they picked it up at the restaurant they were at, which would give reason and rationale to why no one else on the team then would have it, because it's not practice related or team facility related, and they would have not interfaced back with any of those players until they would have gotten on the plane to go to Kansas City, which they were supposed to fly out on Saturday and get to the hotel Saturday night and then have the game. The positive test from Cam Newton, though, happened on Friday afternoon, and Newton found out about it Friday night. So I don't think that it has to do with that dinner between Gilmore and Newton, unless that possibly created Gilmore's positive test today. But then still the timeline is off a little bit, because we know that it takes at least 4 to 7 days from the time of contraction for somebody to have the markers within their system to test positive, whether it's on the Abbey Labs rapid fire test or it's on the PCR test. So there's something that just doesn't still add up in the mix of all of this. And I'm not saying that I'm denying that they have coronavirus or COVID-19. But we're missing some information, and we're missing some things that fit what is the normal, the kind of normally known COVID-19 timeline. So we'll just have to see how this goes. I think, if Newton tests negative tomorrow and then again on Saturday, it's going to begin to raise a lot of questions then about Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, because in the NFL protocols is this: if a guy tests negative twice within a 24-hour period, they are eligible to come off the list and eligible to play in the team's next game. Which, ironically enough, the Patriots' next game is Sunday, and then you got the bye week. So, would it be a real big slap in the face for the Patriots if they're both without Newton and Gilmore on Sunday? Yeah, it would, but it's also Denver. They're not the greatest team either. So, it's not really the biggest worry for the Patriots on the field wise. They got guys that can step up, but they need much better quarterback play than what they got out of both Brian Hoyer and Joe Stidham the other night, especially Brian Hoyer. That was just a pathetic performance.
Yeah, so here's one thing, and I don't want to trash on anybody who wants to trash the Patriots in the game that they played Monday night, or, whatever you want to call that thing that happened Monday night for 3 hours on television. But here's the thing. You put both Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham into situations where they had to play a game against one of the best defenses in the NFL, the defending Super Bowl championship team, with no practice. Remember, they did not practice in the first reps because Newton tested positive Friday.
Right.
The team was essentially shut down. They were in travel mode. They were getting ready to leave the next morning to go to Kansas City. They had no practice because they shut down. They did not travel Saturday. They did not travel Sunday. They got on a plane, flew to Kansas City, went to the stadium and played the game on Monday. So neither of them had a chance to practice. And if you are running a new offense like what the Patriots are running this year with Newton at the helm, you could just see it. Everyone wants to say whatever they want to say about Hoyer. Stidham maybe did a little bit better than Hoyer when he came in, but nobody was on the same page. Hoyer was not on the page with Edelman. He was not even on a page with Burkhead. You had no Sonny Michel in the backfield. Stidham came in. He's still not, you're not on that page when you had no practice time. I think if Hoyer has to go again this week against Denver, having had a week of practice, you will see a different situation. A lot of those balls in Monday night's game weren't bad throws. Hoyer's throws were not bad throws by any shape of the imagination. But they were just off the mark because he wasn't timing with people.
Yeah, as you said, both of those guys had zero practice time. Zero. And I get that. It's hard to be thrown into a game with no preparation whatsoever. But also, if you're the Chiefs, though, you prepared a whole week on Cam Newton, and then Newton's not playing, then you had to adjust your game plans to adjust both Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham. Now with Hoyer, I give the Patriots defense a lot of credit. They kept the Patriots in it throughout 3/4 of that game. What I'm getting on Brian Hoyer for is, the throws. I excuse him for because, again, the time wasn't in sync. He didn't have enough practice time with these guys. But it's just his decision making when, forgetting that you have no timeouts and you take a 10-yard sack with 3 seconds left and you're calling a timeout when you don't have any. As a veteran quarterback of 12 years, you should know that type of situation, whether you've been a backup your whole career or not. And Brian Hoyer hasn't won a game since 2016. Yeah, he's been a career backup for a vast majority of his career, but there's still no excuse for a guy who's been in the league 12 years. Now, if that was Jared Stidham, I would have gone a little easy on Stidham because it's still his second season. But the fact that it's Hoyer, he's been around for 12 years, he's bounced around multiple times. There's no excuse for a veteran quarterback like him to forget how many timeouts they have. That's like a baseball player forgetting that there's 3 outs in an inning, and he starts jogging back to the dugout when there's 2. Now, that happens just about once every game,
right?
At least. But still, though, it's like that's situational football, and that's something that Brian Hoyer should know.
Yeah. Rody Sports Show host and the host of MMA Complete, Zach Drapo, chiming in on the chat on the show tonight. If Belichick spread corona to Patrick Mahomes, did he really lose last week? No, Zach. No, Zach. I love you, man. But no, Belichick did not spread coronavirus to Patrick Mahomes. But I gotta say though, if Patrick Mahomes got coronavirus and would be out, I don't wish COVID on anybody, or that anyone suffers it. But it might be a favor to the NFL for some reason, because
two things that happened on that one, Zach. A, Bill Belichick would be banned 8 games just because of the name Patrick Mahomes. And B, every NFL game for the next 4 weeks would be postponed.
Is that the new are we gonna have COVID gate this year or something where it's like, oh, the Patriots cheated because the other team got coronavirus?
Honestly, I would not put it past anyone. I wouldn't put anything past 2020 at this point.
Jeez.
This year's just been a complete and utter dumpster fire of a year. I'm not putting anything past anything. Although that is very highly unlikely. Oh God, I thought all the Tampa Bay stuff was bad early on in the offseason. But anyway though, assuming the NFL has said no positive tests from the Patriots today, assuming no positive tests tomorrow, the Patriots will host the Denver Broncos on Sunday. What do you teach for a Patriots win?
Run the damn ball. Your passing game, if you do not have Cam Newton, your passing game doesn't work. That was pretty evident from the other night. Run the ball. Hopefully Sonny Michel's back on Sunday, and if you have Sonny Michel plus Burkhead plus White, then I think, just run the ball and try to ground pound the Broncos defense. If you can establish a run game, you will start to make them get into situations where they'll put 6-7 in the box. I mean, where they'll load. They'll start playing, they'll start playing 11, 12 personnel. And that's where then you open the secondary up a little bit, and you then create a situation where you get a Edelman to sneak one on the outside and air it out. Also, just check down. If you're going to pass, run routes, run bubble screens, run something, slant routes into the flat, run something that's going to be a check down pass, and, just chunk yardage, just get 5 or 6 chunk yardage out of it. Don't try to go for 20, 30, 40. I mean, look, some of the best Patriots wins in franchise history, and I'm not going to say Tom Brady in the last 20 years. I'm going to say in franchise history. Go back through Drew Bledsoe. Go back into Steve Grogan even, and some of the best Patriots wins in franchise history have been when they play that, that cold air check down game where it's just pound another team out for 5-6 yards.
Yeah, I agree with you. You gotta run the ball, but you also don't want to get one dimensional too. So Patriots mix in a good mixture of run and pass, but solidify the run a lot more. Take a little bit of pressure off of Brian Hoyer or Jarrett Stidham, whoever starts that game. Or if you're lucky, Cam Newton's ready to play. You got Newton, so they can do your original game plan. But defensively, take advantage of the rookie quarterback. Drew Lock's out for the Broncos. He's out for the next 2-3 weeks. Take advantage of the rookie quarterback, force him into mistakes, which he will make mistakes. Capitalize on those mistakes, and the Patriots should win the game. Should win the game relatively easily. The Ocean State Athlete Podcast, Matt Moronto and Todd Ziak. You can catch that. You can catch that every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on all of our SFBN platforms. When we come back, if it's not your favorite segment yet, it will be soon. Matt, you'll love this. It is Nick's Picks. So stay tuned for that. You are listening to TitleTown Throwdown. All right, after that quick break, it is time for, it's my favorite segment anyway. It will be everyone soon, shortly. Nick's Picks, where we are going to go over all of the NFL's Week 5 games, whether they're going to be moved or not, played. Doesn't matter. We're still going to pick them. If they get played, great. If they don't, don't sue me. All right, so going to begin off with Thursday Night Football, which begins pretty quickly, actually. Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers against Nick Foles and the Chicago Bears, a battle of 3-1 teams. Little note, Tom Brady is 7-0 on Thursday Night Football. Matt, who you got?
Nick Foles throws the deep dish special, and the Bears win. And everyone in Philly hates me now.
This is going to be a good game. I've chosen the Bucs. The last 3 straight weeks, they've won all 3 times. So stick with what's working. Don't go the Buccaneers over the Bears. All right. If this game does get played, a battle of 2 undefeated teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans. This game to be moved either Monday or Tuesday. Then the Bills' Thursday night game against the Chiefs will subsequently be moved to either Saturday or Sunday. I'm going to shoot for most likely Sunday. But if this game does play Sunday, Bills or Titans?
Ultimately, I'm gonna say push. I don't think it's a tie. Obviously, we've already had that happen once this season, no. And that was a dumpster fire of a game anyway. But you could go either way. With that one, obviously what Josh Allen and the Bills are doing is insane. But Tennessee has a problem right now. And I think that they need to take care of things off the football field a little bit more than they need to necessarily on the football field. Mike Vrabel needs to get his ducks in a row down there and figure out what's going on. So, but when that game gets played, I'm going to say push. I mean, either way.
When the game gets played, I'm going to go with the Bills just because the Bills are more healthy than the Titans right now. And realistically, if you're the Titans, you want to try to play this week. You don't want to be sitting around for 2 weeks. That's just for an NFL team. We don't want the same situation with the Cardinals where they're out 17 days, so they play the game. The Titans, especially in football, if you're sitting around for 2 weeks, it's not good. Look at the Ravens and the divisional round game against the Titans last year. Lamar Jackson sat for 2 weeks and he looked like an old grandmother running. All right, a battle of Pennsylvania, the Eagles and the Steelers. What a dumpster fire team from a dumpster fire division versus a good team from an actually very good division.
Yeah. So I live 20 minutes from Lincoln Financial Field, and
Uh-oh.
this is going to probably upset a lot of my fans who are in the Philadelphia area that listen to any of my shows. But I'm going to make some of my Western PA peeps very happy right now and go with the Steelers.
I don't know the Steelers as well. I mean, Philly, they got a good win. They got a good win last week out in San Francisco, but same time though they're playing a bunch of backups right now. So it was more of a moral victory last week for the Eagles than it was an actual win. Let's be
Yeah, the
honest.
The Niners are fielding the B team right now. So
Yeah, and that's really basically the only team that any NFC East team can beat at this point is a B team.
yeah,
So
I mean, look, the Steelers have Ben Roethlisberger back, and they seem to have the band back together. Juju Smith-Schuster is just ridiculous. Like right now, if you ask me who is number one, number two in the MVP race, it's ultimately is Josh Allen at the Bills, and then Juju Smith-Schuster. I've got to put like number two right now.
I really do. All right, the LA Rams come in cross country to play the Washington football team, who's again from the dumpster fire division, the NFC East. I got the Rams in that one. That's
the
honest.
NFC East is your drunk fraternity brother right now. Yeah, LA Rams in a walk. The whole NFC East is just go home, you're drunk.
The Arizona Cardinals, they're also flying cross country to play the 0-4. Somehow he's still there, Adam Gase in the New York Jets.
Yeah, the Jets are 0-5 by the end of that game. The Jets are 0-5 by halftime.
They're 0-5 by kickoff. David Kyler Murray and the Cardinals all day long.
You know what Jets stands for, right? Just end the season. Every year.
A good divisional matchup, the Raiders and the Chiefs. Chiefs, again, have to work off of a short week. Hopefully they catch a bit of a break. But they're hosting the Raiders this week, 2-2. I think the Raiders are 2-3 by the end of it. So I'm going to go the Chiefs.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think anybody's really actually beating the Kansas City Chiefs right now. But, look, the Ravens have a lot of questions to answer on offense. Lamar can only do so much. And you're asking him to literally try to do everything. And he does not have, I don't think he has the same offense that he had last year even. And it's whether or not it's becoming predictable what the Ravens are doing with him. And we see this happen sometimes when you put an offense squarely around a quarterback or around a wide receiver or around a tight end or around a running back. Eventually into the second year, it becomes predictable. And everyone says, oh, but, look at, Peyton Manning in Indianapolis or look at Phillip Rivers in San Diego / Los Angeles. Look at Ryan Fitzpatrick in Miami. Look at Tom Brady in New England. And it clearly shows you that they were one player. Look, Tony Romo doesn't do what he does in Dallas without the receivers and running backs that he had. Dak Prescott in Dallas right now isn't doing what he's even capable of doing without Elliott and those guys. So and you can go all the way back. So I don't think that the Ravens have all the nuts and bolts together right now to be able to have a good season. So I agree. Ravens are going to be looking at another loss.
Raiders.
Sorry.
You're good. All right, let's try to get through this rapid fire. Jaguars 1-3, Texans 0-4. They got rid of Bill O'Brien. Houston's won 10 of the last 12 games against Jacksonville. I'm going to go Houston. They get their first win.
There's something to be said about you fire a coach and everyone starts coming in and all of a sudden ups the ante because they start thinking, am I playing for my job? So yeah, but also I mean, look at who you're playing against. So I don't know. That one,
Toss up.
I'm gonna go toss. Yeah,
Bengals at the Ravens. Ravens.
yeah, Ravens.
Panthers in the 0-4 Falcons. Give me Teddy Bridgewater all day long.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. Yeah,
Late game Dolphins at Niners. I'll draw the Niners on this
ooh,
one. I'll draw the Niners on this one.
ooh. Is that game in San Francisco?
Yes.
Huh. I might have to go with the Niners.
All right. Patriots at home hosting the Broncos. I don't know the past, but it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to ever pick against the Patriots. I think I just automatically pick the Patriots no matter what, and that's just Patriots Nation and my home. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna say Patriots, but I think it's gonna be close. Patriots by 7.
The 0-4 Giants and the 1-3 Dallas Cowboys. Tough part of the game, but I'm going to go Dallas on this one.
I said this to someone the other day, and I didn't think they were going to agree with me, and they did. The worst thing to happen to the Dallas Cowboys this offseason was getting rid of Jason Garrett. Mike McCarthy clearly is not the answer in Dallas. I don't know what in the world Jerry Jones was thinking or what he expected out of it, but they actually look worse than they did last year. And that's a hard thing to do because they were on the precipice, and I think they actually look worse. That game goes into overtime, but Dallas wins.
All right, last three rapid fire. Colts and Browns. About 3-1 teams. I'm doing the Brownies.
Ooh.
Sunday night football. The Vikings at the Seahawks. I'm doing Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Russell Wilson. Yeah. Like Russell Wilson against whoever. Like it's Russell Wilson.
And to wrap up week 5, Monday Night Football, the Chargers and the Saints.
Oh, that means I can go to sleep early. Cool. New Orleans by halftime.
Yeah, New Orleans. All right, well, Matt, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll, keep tuning in. I love what you're doing here with the TitleTown Throwdown show. It's always a great chance to be able to jump online and talk about Boston sports, or even be able to, take a listen and hear what's going on Boston sports. And for everybody who's out there in the SFBN Rhode Island fan base territory, don't forget to tune in Saturday morning, 10 a.m., the very first, the true world premiere show of Sports World Weekly. We'll break down groups A through D in the UEFA Champions League. We'll take a look at the grid after. We're going to come on air kind of like right when qualifying ends for the Aramco Grand Prix in Germany for F1. So we'll take a walk through the grid, and we'll talk about what's going on with Liverpool, who has given up 12 goals in their last 2 matches. The defending Premier League champions are having some problems at Anfield, and we'll discuss what's going on with that. And that's Sports World Weekly on Saturdays at 10 a.m.
All right. As for TitleTown Throwdown, we'll talk to you guys next Thursday. Enjoy.